Hey guys, and welcome to today's video. Today is an exciting one because spring is around the corner. It actually may be here as the day that I am posting this video, but I thought that it would be fun to chat about some eyeshadow palettes that remind me of springtime. So I pulled 10 eyeshadow palettes that all give me like spring vibes, and I'm here to share them with you. And even more exciting, this is a collab with my friend Karen Harris here on YouTube, so I will talk about her in just a moment. But if you are new here, hello and welcome. My name is Kelly, and I love all things makeup and beauty. I love talking. I love makeup. I love talking about makeup, so if you like to chat about makeup too, I would love to have you subscribe and be part of the KBella fam, but why don't we go ahead and jump into the video. Now I did say this is a collab with my beautiful friend Karen Harris here on YouTube. Karen is the queen of eyeshadow palettes. So when I was thinking about doing this video, I thought that it would be fun to collaborate with Karen. One, because she has an extensive eyeshadow palette, so she knows what she's talking about. But two, we also have different like eyeshadow styles, like different preferences. I tend to be more neutral. She is definitely more bold and colorful. So I thought this would be a fun way for you to see like a range of springtime eyeshadow palettes. Karen is also known for her tan girl friendly makeup reviews. If you are someone who has a complexion that is deeper than mine, you will probably love Karen because she definitely puts makeup to the test to see if it's tan girl friendly. So I'm gonna have Karen's channel and video listed down below. Definitely go check her out. Tell her I sent you. And if you're coming over from Karen's channel, hello and welcome. Like I said in the beginning, my name is Kelly. I am a teacher, I am a mom, and I am makeup obsessed. Like I did mention, my makeup style is a little bit more on the neutral end, a little bit different than Karen's, but I think that's what makes our collab so fun, is you get to see a wide variety of makeup. But why don't we go ahead and jump into these palettes. Okay, so let's chat about some eyeshadow palettes. We will start with what is on my eyes. I tried to do something spring-like and colorful, and honestly, I wouldn't be able to have a spring palette video without mentioning the Sydney Grace Tiny Marvels palette. This was in collaboration with Mel Thompson, who sadly passed last year, but I'm so thankful that we have this palette. It's definitely a staple in my collection. It's not an eyeshadow palette that I reach for all of the time, but when I think about spring, these bright colors just really stand out. The gold, the purple, the green, you have a peach over here. All of these bright shades just really stand out and make me think of springtime and flowers blooming. So that's kind of what I tried to recreate on my eyes here. I do have this Meadowhawk shade on the lid. I have a little bit of Bugaboo in the corner. Of course, this green shade in Mantis is in the crease, and then I took Jewel Bee down here on the lower lash line. But I'm so thankful to have this palette. I'm so thankful to have a piece of Mel in my collection, and I definitely love to pull this out in the spring and summer too, but this is a spring video. So the next palette is also a colorful palette with some pastels. It is the Glamlite Ice Cream Dream palette. Now I have to say, this formula is not my favorite. I know it's a favorite of a lot of people here on YouTube. I have a hard time working with the shimmer shades. To me, they just kind of remind me of like the Colourpop Super Shocks, and I never really got down with the Colourpop Super Shock shadows. Those shadows, they're best applied with their finger, and I feel like these shades are best applied with their finger as well, and that's not my preference. I would rather use a brush. However, we are here to talk about color stories, and this color story definitely screams spring to me. You have the pastel shades, bright pops of color, definitely a beautiful, beautiful color story. You can see my daughter got into some of these shades over here, but I'm definitely going to challenge myself to use this more because the shimmer shades aren't my favorite. I don't reach for this palette often, but I do want to try and play with color and experiment a little bit. I tend to be more of a neutral lover, but I do want to play with color every now and then, and that's actually why I picked up this palette. This next palette is much more my color story, and it is the Colourpop Limoncello palette. So this one, I love this one for spring also because you do have more of like a neutral vibe in here, but it does tend to pull a little bit more yellow. So it almost reminds me, I know this is like a limoncello theme, but it almost reminds me of like a sunflower. We have this beautiful green in here, this beautiful gold. You do have some deeper shades down at the bottom if you want to kind of like smoke out your inner corner. Overall, these perform lightly. They definitely are very beautiful on the eyes. Like I said, they do pull more yellow, which reminds me more like sunflowery, but I definitely feel that I'm going to be pulling this out in the springtime, and for my neutral lovers, this would be a good option for you. The next one is also in the neutral realm, and it is my Dominique Cosmetics Latte 2 palette. I don't think you can get the Latte and Latte 2 anymore, but another reason why I chose this palette, aside from being a neutral lover and I can wear them all year long, is these two shades down here, Strawberry Milk and Matcha. Of course, you can go in with your neutral shades, your everyday shades, but we do have this Mustard in Blonde Roast. We do have these two colorful shades. They can give you a pop of color where you can have like neutral with a twist. So if you still want like a neutral everyday go-to look, go-to in my opinion, some people, purple is their go-to, and like, do you, that is amazing. For me, when I say go-to, I'm thinking of neutrals, so we still have a wide variety of neutrals in here, but if you want to get a little bit into like this spring colorful vibe, we have that here with this palette. Now, aside from just colorfuls and pastels and light shades, when I do think of like springtime, I think of bronze and gold and bright shades. So I honestly feel like even though the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette can be a little bit more on the grungy side, the green side, we still have so many like gold bronze shades that we could use to create a nice bronze eye as well. So I'm going to be pulling this out in the springtime. We do have this beautiful bright blue. Blue isn't typically something I would think of for spring, but because this is so bright and vibrant, I think this would be a great spring color. I do love the shades of green up here, and of course if you mix the green and gold together, kind of gives me like flower vibes. So although you can no longer get your hands on the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette, you can technically use any color of eyeshadow all year round. You don't have to stick to just these 10 palettes, but if you do have the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette, springtime would be a good time to pull it out. I'm sure by now you guys have heard my daughter in the background. She is boycotting nap time. But a new palette, new on the scene, is the McGrath Bridgerton collab, the first palette. I know she just announced a second palette coming out, and I probably will not be getting that one. However, this first palette, I do feel like it gives me spring vibes because you do have these pinks in here and this bright like special blue shade, the iridescent shade. I created two looks with this palette. They were both very pink and very light. Even though we do have like deeper shades of pink, they still pulled pretty light on me, and paired with this beautiful blue shade, I feel like you'll be able to get like a fun pop of color, nice and bright and springtime. Another new palette that is restocking for possibly the last time. I don't know how many restocks they're gonna have, but this palette is restocking on March 22nd. I believe. If that's incorrect, I'll pop it up on the screen. But it is the Odins Eye collab with Angelica Nyqvist. It is the Hela palette. Now this palette is stunning. Again, I created 3 looks with this palette up on my channel, but when you look at this, you do have like these bright greens and golds, you have these pink shades, and yes, you do have like depth and dimension where you can smoke it out and make it a little bit deeper, but you do have like these bright yellows and pinks and golds that just really remind me of springtime and what I look for in a spring palette.
Mama, do your video.
I'm doing my video, girl. This next one speaks to my neutral lover heart. It is the Vive Muse palette. I honestly feel like this one would be good all year round. I mean, any of these would really, but this one to me is just like a beautiful, romantic, pink vibe. And I feel like that is classic all year round, no matter the season, but I'm definitely going to be dipping into this, reaching into these beautiful shimmer shades. I feel like all 3 of them, Divine, Finery, and Regal, all 3 of them will be beautiful for the springtime. You can get a nice, almost like plum pink smoky eye if that's what you're going for. So although when I do think of spring, I think of pastel and I think of light and I think of bright colors, but also on the flip side, you do need a staple neutral palette. I feel like everybody needs a staple neutral palette, and I feel like this would be a good one to pull out in the spring as well. I have 2 more palettes to share with you. The next one is this little guy right here by Colourpop. This is the Yoda?
Yoda, baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda. It's the Baby Yoda palette, the Mandalorian, the Child palette. This one has a beautiful array of greens in here. You do have this bright gold. Although it does have shimmer in it, it tends to apply more matte on my eyes, but you do have just these beautiful greens in here. Greens are what I think of, greens and pinks and oranges, when I think of springtime. So of course you can dip into these greens and this gold shade right here. If you like the Super Shock formula, this one right here in Precious Cargo. This one right here in Precious Cargo is a Super Shock formula, but again, it'll give you a nice, bright, flowery look. Now the last palette is not my favorite formula, but thinking of color story, it definitely has a spring color story, and it is the Jouer French Riviera palette. I don't reach for this one a ton. Like I said, I don't love the formula. If you've never tried Jouer eyeshadows before, you may want to test out the formula before going and purchasing this one. But if you did purchase it when it released last year, this definitely gives me spring vibes with this ocean shade. This shade right here is more of like an iridescent shade, not super pigmented. You have a beautiful pink shade, and then you have some neutrals that you can use to kind of make those colors pop. Of course, you can get a little bit smokier down here, but when I think of spring, this palette makes me think of like the ocean and the water and going to the beach, which in Texas, you don't want to go to the beach. I like the beach too. You don't want to go to the beach in the summer. You want to go to the beach in the spring. So that's what this palette reminds me of. But that is going to do it. These are the 10 palettes that I pulled out of my collection that make me think of spring, that I want to be reaching for in these spring months. Hopefully you did not mind my daughter in the background. It's spring break for me. I am a teacher, and so I'm home with my daughter. And that's just life around here. I know Karen has a beautiful baby girl as well. Sometimes we can hear her cooing in the background, so hopefully you don't mind that. But I would love to know your thoughts on these 10 palettes. I would love to know your thoughts down below on like what palettes you have in your collection that make you think of spring. And I want to thank my friend Karen Harris for collaborating with me on this video. I can't wait to hear her picks. Like I said, she is like an eyeshadow palette connoisseur. She knows her stuff. I do not have nearly as many eyeshadows as her. I think I have like almost 40 palettes. She definitely has way more than that. So I can't wait to go check out her video to see what palettes she is thinking of this spring. And thank you, Karen, for collaborating with me. If you came from Karen's channel, I hope that you did enjoy this. I hope that you will consider subscribing before you go. Stick around. That way I can see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.